All right, here we're going to take a look at some body lock options. Imami is really, out of these three guys, Amuzad, Imami, and Yazdani, Imami is really the only one who goes to a body lock. And it helps that his arms are pretty long and he's pretty tall, I think. So here we see snaps, gets his hook, kind of goes Metzger, gets dropped down the single leg, guy's defending, and he comes up into a body lock position. All right. So some things here that we're going to see is shoulder is going to be the focus. So he's going to try and get his shoulder past the guy's overhook and kind of under and into his armpit, where you can see his shoulder on this side of the overhook instead of this side. All right. So here we see he's got his hands locked. And he's going to quick pull and kind of shift his arms up to get this guy's overhook loose for a second. And then his shoulder is going to shift in. All right. So now we see almost whole shoulder is on this side of the guy's overhook as opposed to close to himself. So it's toward the opponent, not toward Imami. All right. Once this happens, this makes his overhook pretty weak and essentially useless. And it also helps if he tries to hold on, his shoulders are the opponent's shoulders are gonna be twisted, where his chest is kind of facing the side you're on, which makes it pretty difficult. We can see the space here as he continues to try to use his overhook. He's really only got to bite with his hand. All right. And here, Mommy's just got to be careful of the opponent's hips, making sure that he doesn't bump him off and over top. But it gets really hard, again, when you don't have this overhook. So he continues to pressure across and pull his lock toward himself. That way it twists the opponent's body, where his shoulders are stacked and chest is facing the side that Imami's on. Then we see trying to reach between his legs, I guess. Good luck. And as long as Imami doesn't get loaded up on his hips, height helps here. He's got long legs, so his feet can stay on the mat as he circles behind. But we'll see the opponent's overhook release. And then it makes for a simple quad pod finish after that. Here again, from a different angle. This time he just reaches his hook in, gets across the guy's body, locks his hands. Now we can really see, I think already, he's pretty much got him beat with shoulder position. I mean, this guy wants Imami's shoulder out, and his shoulder is definitely in. All right, we can see right here, spin. When he makes his quick movement to kind of shift the opponent forward and then slide his shoulder a little deeper and his lock a little deeper. Opponent's like, I have no bite with this. There's no pressure I can create, and it just pops out as he steps behind. All right. One quick thing here, as he goes behind, he still drops his hips low. He steps and then knee center in kind of squatted position, and is making sure not to drive forward yet, because that could cause some off balance issues if the opponent's hips are in the way. He's kind of backwards, and then the opponent's overhook is out, and he's pretty safe here. Here's another example. Goes single leg, gets kind of seatbelt position. As they wrestle up, he reaches across and locks his hands. This body lock. Here he steps in front and kind of crushes the guy with some pressure. But still, some of the same things apply. So once he gets his hands locked, all right, we can see that his shoulder right here is not quite on this side of the opponent's arm. It's still a little bit close to him. So instead of staying behind the opponent's hips, we're going to see him lock and then step in front. All right. And this starts to let Imami use his hips to kind of bump the opponent off and create a little bit of space to start to slip his shoulder in or tilt the opponent's chest. Shoulder stacked, chest towards Imami. All right, and the opponent tries to battle back for this kind of in front hip position, but it's pretty much too late. This overhook is starting to slip out. Shoulder is starting to get past overhook. Now he's not so worried if he steps behind, but here, and he's got shoulder way past. I mean, this is like even a whip over type position or a cow catcher, whatever you want to call it. He ends up keeping his hands locked, but he just crushes him with pressure across. I mean, this overhook just becomes useless. All right. So we can see once that arm gets fully on top of his shoulder, it's pretty much over for the opponent here. And just pressures across, continues to stay low as he drives, and ends up just on top of him. Probably gets an exposure here. I mean, if he drops his chest back a little bit in front of this guy's shoulder, throws a half, Mike could bury him. I really like this clip. It shows kind of another option here. He steps in and lifts. All right. So here he goes for his like Metzger kind of option. Guy stops it, ends up seatbelt, grabs his body lock. Okay, here we can see that they are starting to kind of fight for in front hip position. All right, so opponent is going to try to use his hip to bump Imami's hip out. So Imami tries to step in front. So you see this foot right here start to head in front. Opponent is trying to block it. All right. Even still, you can see this shoulder peeking through the overhook. It's not quite in the position that he like it, I think. Kind of wants to slide it down a little bit, kind of get closer to the opponent's wrist. But so they're fighting for front position. All right. Now as the opponent starts to battle, so steps in front. All right. The only way the opponent can recover his hip position is to step back in front and almost pick his chest up and even lean backwards a little bit. So as Imami steps in front, the opponent re-steps. We can kind of see how the opponent's knees get in front of his hips, which starts to create some off balance backwards. And Imami uses that, and we can see his shoulder is way in there now. He uses that to lift, and then uses his hips to keep the opponent's legs in front of their hips, and takes him to his back.